So, namaskaram to all. We will start today's session. Chadurmukha Samarambham Vagbhadacharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Varyandam Vande Guru Paramparam Ragadirogan Sadadanushaktan Sheshagaya Prasadana Sheshan Pansukya Moha Radidanjakhana Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So, we discussed the 5 Vayus in detail. And I hope that it was helpful. Now, ideally, we have to go back to the idea of Samprapti. That is where we took a turn and started explaining many other things. But the problem is that whenever we go to the specific topics like Samprapti or Chikitsa, then each time I feel that my understanding about the very basics is not so clear. So I have to review that again and again. That is why I end up in again talking about the very basic principles. I do not know whether it is becoming too much overwhelming or very much boring or whatever it is. Yeah, now itself a message is popping up. Please go through the Pitta and Kapha as well. We will come to it definitely later, as and when the time comes, we will come to it. So regarding the Samprapti, I am not going to detail it right at this moment. We have seen that Yadha Dushtena Doshena Yadhaja Anubisarpada Nirvritti Ramayasya Asau Sampraptihi Jatihi Agatihi Yadha Dushtena Doshena Yadhaja Anubisarpada Nirvritti Ramayasya Asau Sampraptihi Jadihi Agadihi. That is how Samprapti is explained technically by Vagbhada. And we looked into some parts of this definition. As I mentioned earlier, that is where we diverted in explanations of dosha, dhadu, mala, etc. etc. And regarding the dushti, it was so interesting to listen to the opinion of Hemadri. That is, the dushti prakaram can be of 3 types. Rupa hanihi va, rupa vruddhihi va, rupandaram va ityadi dushtatva prakaraha. And we did not go to those finer aspects. Yadha dushtena doshena. So first of all, we have to understand what dosha is. Then only there is question of dushti or samyam or samavastha or whatever it is. So that is why we started explaining about dosha. Now, here we find rupa hanirva, rupa vruddhirva, rupandaram va ityadi dushtatva prakaraha. Rupa hani represents kshaya. What of kshaya of what? What is rupa hani? Rupa. Rupa means rupayati iti rupam. Rupayati. Rupam. Rupam means swabhavam, akriti. These are the basic meanings of rupam. And hani means nasham, apachayam, kshayam, etc. So rupa hani is an apachaya in swabhava. Apachaya in the swabhava of a principle is known as its rupahani. A decline. It is a decline in the manifestation of swabhava. Swabhava, that is the natural form or original state or nature, that is swabhava. So in rupahani there is a decline or deficit in the presentation of the original nature. There is a decline. And the original here means the prakritam or prakrita avastha. There is a decline in that prakrita avastha. In Vayu, we see ulsahochvasa nishvasa cheshta vega pravartanaihi samyak gatya cha dhadunam akshanam padavena cha anugrannhadi avikritah. That is the prakrita avastha. Tam chalaha ulsahochvasa nishvasa cheshta vega pravartanaihi samyak gatya cha dhadunam akshanam padavena cha anugrannhadi avikritah. That is the original nature of Vayu. And this Vayu is having certain gunas. Tatra ruksho lekhushitaha gharaha sukshmas chalonilaha. So Vayu is rukshaha lekhuhu shitaha gharaha sukshmaha and chalaha. These are the gunas of Vayu. But gunas do not manifest as such. We have discussed this many times, but let it be 100 times. I think when we explain it the next time, 101st time, still there will be some new idea in it. There will be something to add to our clinical insight. So even if these are all or seems to be very dry theoretical portions, as I mentioned in one of our previous sessions, this is fundamentally some sort of a prajna samskaranam. By repeated listening, I think we will go to some sort of a mananam. And that way, we will be conditioned in such a way that we think like this. So to reach that stage, it may require sometimes multiple repetitions again and again, hearing and hearing, listening and listening, isn't it? So it is unavoidable. That is how this avartano abhyasaha. Abhyasaha is avartanaha. So you need lot of avarti like Kshirabala or Dhanvandaram. Avartanam makes it stronger. Coming back to our context, these gunas, lakhu, ruksha, lakhu, sita, ghara, etc., they do not manifest as such, but as functions, karma. And we don't find Prakrita Vayu manifesting as gunas. And with the rukshadi gunas, ruksha, lakhu, sita, ghara, sukshma, chala, within, while participating as a unit of a system, as a unit of a complex system, this Vayu manifests with the certain karmas which are listed here as ulsahochvasa, nishvasa, cheshta, vega pravartanaihi, etc., etc., etc. we may not be able to find the exact guna responsible for one particular karma. This is very important. You need not be able to, or you may not be able to, or you will not be able to find out the exact guna which is operating behind the manifestation of one particular karma. Why? Why it is so? Maybe one of the simplest answers that I can give for this question is all these things are happening in a living system. A system which is driven by a principle called life. This should not be overlooked. This should not be forgotten. There is a principle called life. And one cannot expect a single guna to work independently, not related to any other principles, independently in a living system. For the sake of explanations, we may be saying many things. Vayu is doing this, Pitta is doing this, Kabha is doing this. But it is all for the sake of communication, or it is maybe the limitations of our modes of communication. That is not the way in which things are happening in reality. It is very difficult to specifically say that this guna is responsible exclusively for this karma, or this karma is exclusively done by this guna. It's very difficult. And see, you take a principle, something, maybe a dravya. There may be many gunas. In one single dravya, there will be many gunas. But all gunas need not be equally prominent. There may be one or two gunas which are quite tangible, perceivable, visible, leading. And that dravya may be getting its address or identity by means of those predominating gunas, no doubt. But that does not mean that the remaining gunas are useless or inactive or good for nothing. It is not so. They are all equally important in defining, determining, delivering the specific functions of that particular dravya. This is very important. We see that Vayu is Ruksha, Lakhu, Shita, Ghara, Sukshma and Chala. In Pitta, we see Tikshna, Ushna, these two gunas supported by Snigdha, then Lakhu, Sara and Drava. Tikshna, Ushna supported by Snigdha, then Lakhu, Sara and Drava. And Kabha, Snigdha, Sita, Guru, Manda, Slakshna and Sthira. If we consider the Utsahadi, Utsahochvasa, Nishwasa, Cheshta, Vega, Pravartanaihi, etc., which I call as Utsahadi karma of Prakrita Vayu. As I told earlier, we will not be able to attribute each single karma to any particular single guna. Just think about it. Utsahochvasa, nishvasa, cheshta, vega, pravartanaihi, samyak gatya cha, dhadunam, samyak gatya, akshanam padavena cha, anugrihadi avikritah. So, tatra ruksho laghusitaha, gharaha, sukshmaha, chalaha, anilaha. So, we may not be able to attribute one single karma to one single guna. But we say, we find, we learn that Prakritavayu, Anugrihadi, Avikritaha, Ulsahochvasa, Nishvasadi. So this is where the main ideas of our fundamental principles are staying hidden. So the one guna, one karma equation need not work. Instead, those karmas should be understood as the total picture. The total picture which depicts Vayu in its Prakrita Avastha. Vayu in its Prakrita Avastha. That means Avikrita Avastha. Anugrinhadi Avikritaha. Which is operating in an environment created by life. In an environment created by life. When there is no life, Jadam, even if there is the presence of Vayu Akasha Bhutas, they never organize together to manifest as Vada Dosha. Even if there are Vayu and Akasha among the 5 Bhutas, of course all the 5 Bhutas are present, they never organize to form and function as Vada Dosha in a body which has no life. And hence, obviously, there is no question of karmas. There is no question of karmas. Of course, for some elementary understanding of the concepts, the preliminary, the primary, basic understandings, or the, elementary could be the best word. Elementary understanding of the concepts, we may consider many things which looks like direct equations. Like Guru is the guna which does Brahmana karma. Yasya dravyasya Brahmane shaktihi saha guruhu. Or Lekhu is the guna which is doing the Lankhana karma, and so on. But with further levels of understanding, with higher levels of learning, we should understand that no single guna is capable of doing any karma alone. No single guna is capable of doing any karma alone. It is always a group activity. It's a group activity which is dependent upon many other factors. In a dravya, it is dependent upon many other factors. There are many other things to be understood, explored in this regard. If I start doing that, we will switch over to Dravyadi Vijnaniyam. We will come to it later. Now, the list of gunas of doshas, like the Rukshadi of Vayu, or Tikshnadi of Pitta, or Snigdhadi of Kabha, are all fundamentally physical characteristics they are considered as the physical characteristics of Karyadravya's. Any Karyadravya is understood in terms of its gunas. Any Karyadravya, which we call by the, say, the Guruvadi gunas. Of course, there may be some minor changes or differences in the way in which these gunas are enumerated by different rishis. It is quite natural because of the stress given, contextual stress. But the basic gunas are same, and they are understood or explained without any contradiction, by and large. Actually, this is based on the Vaisheshika Darshana. Generally, these things are done based on the Vaisheshika Darshana. But interestingly, the ideas which are conceived in Vaisheshika Darshana can be seen modified further when they are used in Ayurveda. When they are used in Ayurveda, you can see them modified in a very peculiar manner. To give an example, take the case of Guru Guna. Guru is the guna which is explained as Adyapadana Asamavayi Karanam. Adyapadana Asamavayi Karanam in its physical sense, as per the Vaisheshika school of thought. But coming to Ayurveda, taking all the finer sense of Guru Guna for granted, you can find Guru explained as Sadopaleba Balakrid Guru Starpana Brahmanaha. Sadopaleba Balakrit Guru Starpana Brahmanaha. So, from Adyapadana Asamavayi Karanam, from Adyapadana Asamavayi Karanam, it is becoming Sadopaleba Balakrit. Sadopaleba Balakrit Guruhu Tarpana Brahmanaha. Sushruta Sutram 46th chapter. So all of a sudden the things are changing. Why? Context is different. Context is different. See, suppose a piece of flesh, which is Guru, having Guru Guna or Gaurava, and because of its Gaurava, what will happen? It will fall down to the earth when released from a height. If you release that piece of flesh from a height, it will fall down to the earth. But that is why it is known as Adyapadana Asamavayi Karanam Gurutvam. It has got that potential. This may not be a matter of interest in Ayurveda. That means if the flesh is released from a height, that will fall down. That need not be a seriously interesting point in Ayurveda. Instead, it considers the response that the Gaurava of this flesh can make in the Sharira when it is consumed by a person. When it is consumed by a person. It is about the same Guru Guna. It is about the same Gaurava. But context is different, interest is different, area is different. Then the entire stuff is getting changed to a different level. Adyapadana asamavayi karanam becomes immaterial. Instead, the point about that gurutva of the flesh is sadopaleba balakrudu. That piece of flesh, if it is consumed by a person, it is going to be sadopaleba balakrudu guruhu tarpana brahmanaha. So it will do all these karmas, and the gurutva is the responsible factor for all those things. Now coming back to Vayu, it is Ruksha, it is Lakhu, Shita, Ghara, Sukshma and Chala. If we consider these gunas individually, what will happen? Ruksha, take Ruksha. In the 46th chapter of Sushruta Samhita, you can find these gunas explained in a very beautiful manner. Of course, some of these things are not included there. Then we will be going to some other explanations. So Ruksha we find as a part of the explanation of the duals, Snigdha and Ruksha. Sneha mardavakrit snigdho balavarnakarastadha Rukshastad viparidasyaad. Sneha mardavakrit snigdha. Sneha mardavakrit snigdha balavarnakaraha tadha Rukshaha tad viparidasyaad. So Rukshaha tad viparitaha. That means viparida of the sneha mardava karatva of snigdhatva. So Rukshata is against the sneha mardava krida. It will not create sneham. Instead, it will create Rukshata mardava krida. It will create gharata. Then balak varna karastadha, it will not increase balam varnam, instead it will reduce the balam and varnam. It will cancel off balam and varnam. Rukshaha tad viparidasyaad. Then additionally visheshad stambhano gharaha. Rukshata has got two vishesha properties, that Visheshad stambhano gharaha. Visheshad stambhano gharaha. Then coming to Laghu Guna, again we will find the explanation of Guru Guna first, and then Viparidam is Laghu. We already saw the Brahmana, that Guru Gunam la Sadopaleba Balagrud Guru Starpana Brahmanaha Leghus Tad Viparidasyaad. Leghuhu Tad Viparitaha Lekhanaha Ropanaha Tatha Lekhano Ropanas Tadha. That is about Leghu Guna. Then Shitam Hladana Stambhana Shito. What is that? Hladana Stambhana Shito Murcha Tritsveda Dahajid. Murcha Tritsveda Dahajid. Then Gharam. Gharam is many times not considered as separate guna because it is a manifestation of Rukshada. But in certain textbooks we can find that Lekhane Gharaha, then it is Lekhana. Then Sukshma. What is Sukshmam? Sukshmastu Saukshmyad Sukshmeshu Srodaswa Anusarasmritaha. Sukshmaha is that guna because of its sukshmata. It moves through it passes through Sukshmeshu Srodasu. Through the Sukshma Srodas, it can travel. That property is known as Sukshma. Chala, there is no explanation seen in Sushruta, but we find in some other sources that Prerane Chalaha. So, if we just sum up these Ruksha, Lakhu, Shida, Ghara, Sukshma, and Chala, to understand what Vayu is, that is the exercise. We are summing up all the gunas of Vayu. That means summing up the parts, and we expect that we will get the whole. But in many systems, especially in the presence of life, jiva, prana, the whole is not the sum of its parts. The whole is not the sum of its parts. So if we sum up these properties or gunas together, that need not give a logical justification for the complete entity called Vayu, which is performing Ulsahochvasa Nishvasa Cheshta Vega Pravartanaihi Samyaggatya Cha Dhadunam Akshanam Padavena Cha Anugranhadi Avikrataha. That picture we cannot isolate or justify using this set of gunas. Or if we look into the description of Vayu as in Vadakalakaliyam, Vayustandra Dharaha, etc., etc., again it will be really difficult to find an answer for who is the responsible guna for this. It will be very, very difficult to find a one-on-one or one-to-one connection between the gunas and the Rukshadi gunas and the karmas of Vayu. But still, Vayu is delivering all these functions in its Prakritavastha. Vayu is capable of delivering all these functions in its Prakritavastha in a living body. And that is the magic of life. That is the magic of life. And we were discussing about Rupahani. We were discussing about Rupahani. How does it happen? We can just go through the definition of Samprapti by saying that Yadha Dushtena Doshena Yadha Chan Sarpada blah blah blah. And we can say that Dushti is of three types as explained by Hemadri, Rupahani, Rupavruddhi or Rupandaram. Okay, fine. And when we say that what is Rupahani, okay, Lingan Shine Nilengas Sadvalpam Bhashidehidam Sapjana Shaha Tadha Sreshma Ruddhyuttame Sambhavaha. Okay, everything is set. But that is not going to create any sort of a Prajna Samskaranam. If we have to get some sort of a Prajna Samskaranam in relation to the way in which these ideas are basically conceived. But to be very honest, this is not the last answer. This is not the last answer. You put these ideas into your practice. You put these ideas into the way in which you are understanding a clinical situation. You put these ideas into the way in which you are coming up with a prescription, patient analysis, outcome analysis. Then you will find better ways of understanding the situation with an Ayurvedic perspective. That is the crux of the story. That is where the Prajna Samskaranam is required. Okay, so we were discussing about Rupahani or Kshaya of the Swabhava or Apachaya of Swabhava. And how does it happen? That is the question. How does it happen? So if we have to understand How does it happen? We will have to go through many other finer aspects of the shariram in Ayurveda. With a modern concept of anatomy and physiology, you will not be able to understand what Rupahani is. For that, we have to go further deep into the finer concepts of Sharira in Ayurveda. So I think we will come to that. I thought I will be able to complete that portion in today's session, but it is already 9:36. No problem. I think we do not have any particular syllabus to complete before the exams or nothing like that. We will go in a very comfortable manner, very slowly, half an hour sessions, doesn't matter. The remaining parts or that question remains. There is Rubahani. The question is, how does it happen? So that is going to be a sort of question which we have to think for the 1 week ahead, the next week before next Wednesday. Then we will discuss it once again. So I think I should stop the session here now. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening to the very fundamental concepts of Ayurveda. Bhishajam sadhumuktanam bhadram agamasarinam abhyasta karmanam bhadram bhadrabhirashinam. So if there are something else in the chat box, I think I will see. Otherwise, we will wind up here. Yeah, one point which Ashwin posted. Please go through the Pitta and Kapha in the same way as we discussed the Vayu. Yeah, that is a beautiful idea. I love it. I love it. In the first chance where I get, we will go to that. Okay. Thank you very much.